Autumn 1962. Wilbur Volkman walked the fence line of his wheat farm outside Wall, South Dakota, a ritual etched into 20 harvest seasons. The familiar dry brown soil stretched to the horizon. The weathered fence posts leaned with the same tired grace. Nothing about this land felt different. Yet, a mere 60 feet beneath his worn boots, an engine of global annihilation lay dormant. A nuclear warhead, its destructive power roughly 20 times that of the bomb that leveled Hiroshima, rested sealed within a colossal steel and concrete tube. It stood poised, ready to launch in under 60 seconds, activated by the simultaneous turn of two keys, by two men, stationed 3 miles distant. The most of thing that mathematics of its force, what they understood was simpler, more immediate. A year prior, a man from the Air Force had appeared, an emissary from a world far removed from their quiet fields. He offered to buy or lease a single acre from their sprawling 1,000-acre spread, presenting a document for their signature. In exchange, the government provided payment, erected a small, nondescript fence around a tiny square of earth, and issued a singular instruction: continue farming everything around it as if nothing had changed. By the time this clandestine program reached its full, terrifying scope, more than 1,000 of these buried missiles were scattered across the heartland. They lay hidden beneath the golden wheat fields of Montana, the cattle ranches of North Dakota, the sunflower farms of South Dakota, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado. Children grew up playing mere hundreds of yards from live intercontinental ballistic missiles. Massive combines, the symbols of agrarian life, rolled past blast doors engineered to withstand a direct nuclear strike. Almost none of the men and women who tilled this earth truly comprehended the sheer scale of the engineering feat the Air Force had quietly accomplished on their land. It was an audacious gambit, concealing an entire nuclear arsenal in plain sight, transforming weapons capable of ending civilization into an indistinguishable part of the American agricultural landscape. To truly grasp the audacious decision to bury nuclear weapons beneath working farms, one must first understand the existential dilemma confronting the United States Air Force in 1958. At that time, America's nuclear missiles were housed above ground, clustered together on designated bases, starkly visible from the air. This concentration presented a terrifying vulnerability. A single, precisely aimed Soviet warhead could, in theory, obliterate an entire squadron in one devastating strike. Strategists coined a chilling term for this precarious situation: the use it or lose it trap. The very fragility of one's deterrent force created an unbearable pressure, a terrifying incentive to fire first rather than risk losing the entire arsenal in a surprise attack. This inherent instability made the world a far more dangerous place, teetering perpetually on the brink. The solution, conceived by brilliant and desperate engineers, was called dispersal. Instead of 10 missiles standing exposed and vulnerable on a single base, they would be scattered individually across vast, unsuspecting territories. This radical decentralization was designed to fracture the target, making a single, crippling first strike an impossibility. The enemy would need to unleash a barrage of unprecedented magnitude to neutralize America's retaliatory capacity, an act that would guarantee their own annihilation. It was a strategy born of necessity, a desperate attempt to stabilize an unstable world by embedding the ultimate weapon within the very fabric of everyday life. The quiet fields, once merely productive, became silent sentinels, holding the balance of power in an unseen grip, a constant reminder of the profound invisible weight carried by those who simply worked the land. Across thousands of square miles, an invisible network began to take shape. Each silent sentinel was buried deep within its own hardened chamber, a fortress of steel and concrete, connected by a labyrinth of hidden cables to a control center situated many miles distant. This vast, dispersed architecture was designed to redefine the very calculus of global conflict. The strategic brilliance was stark. An aggressor would be forced to target each missile individually. This meant unleashing not just a handful, but dozens, perhaps hundreds of warheads, just to ensure the destruction of a single squadron. The prospect of a decisive first strike, once a terrifying possibility, suddenly seemed to lose its chilling efficiency. It began to appear not merely difficult, but utterly impossible to guarantee. The sheer scale of the retaliatory effort required made preemptive aggression a gamble no nation could afford. At the heart of this revolutionary defense strategy lay a new weapon, the LGM-30 Minuteman missile, first deployed in 1962. This was a radical departure from its predecessors. Earlier, liquid-fueled rockets were temperamental giants, demanding hours of meticulous preparation, their towering forms vulnerable on launch pads as crews toiled to fill their volatile tanks. The Minuteman, however, harnessed the power of solid propellant. This meant it could remain dormant, fully fueled and poised for years on end, ready to ignite and launch in under 60 seconds. This single, pivotal engineering choice liberated the missile from constant human oversight, allowing it to be interred deep beneath the earth, effectively forgotten until the moment of ultimate necessity, rather than requiring daily vigilance from dedicated fueling teams. Yet, a missile capable of launching in under a minute is only as effective as the sanctuary from which it emerges. The true crucible of engineering began not with the missile itself, but with the monumental task of constructing a subterranean home robust enough to endure a direct nuclear impact and still unleash its devastating counterstrike. This was a challenge that pushed the boundaries of known science, demanding unprecedented resilience. What the architects of this defense system did not fully grasp at its inception was the profound, almost geological transformation their solution would impose upon the landscape. Solving this intricate problem meant physically reshaping the vast, open expanse of the northern Great Plains, one quiet, unassuming land deal at a time. The sheer scope of the undertaking was staggering. The United States Air Force required approximately 150 missiles for each wing, meticulously spread across an immense area spanning nearly 8,500 square miles. The critical mandate was precise. Every missile silo had to be positioned far enough from its neighbors to ensure that a single Soviet warhead, even one of immense destructive power, could not simultaneously incapacitate two silos. This seemingly straightforward requirement unleashed a cascade of engineering and logistical hurdles, problems for which no blueprint existed, no prior solution could be consulted. Foremost among these was the land problem. Constructing a secret military installation of such magnitude on land that was not sovereign territory was, by definition, impossible. To secure the 150 separate parcels needed for each missile wing, in addition to the tracks designated for the crucial launch control centers, necessitated direct, often delicate negotiations. The Air Force found itself engaging with private citizens, the stoic cattle ranchers, the resilient wheat farmers, and the homesteading families whose ancestors had tilled and nurtured that very ground for generations. Their lives were intimately woven into the fabric of the land, their histories etched into every acre. Throughout the early 1960s, Air Force real estate officers traversed dusty gravel roads in unmarked cars, their presence a subtle disruption in the quiet rhythm of rural life. They would knock on farmhouse doors, often unexpected visitors, extending offers for roughly 1 acre of land per silo. These arrangements were typically either an outright purchase or a lease agreement for a modest annual payment. Most farmers, recognizing the national imperative or perhaps swayed by the financial incentive, acquiesced. Some, however, engaged in protracted negotiations that stretched for years, a testament to their deep-rooted connection to their property. A defiant few refused outright, forcing military planners to meticulously redraw entire missile field boundaries, navigating their strategic grid around a single, unyielding holdout. The second monumental challenge was concealment. Structurally, a missile silo is an enormous cylindrical void excavated deep into the earth. Holes of such colossal dimensions, by their very nature, are difficult to hide, especially when they represent the tip of a nation's nuclear spear. The visual footprint had to be minimized, the colossal scale of the underground infrastructure rendered virtually invisible from above. This demanded not just brute force construction, but an intricate dance between engineering prowess and the art of disguise, ensuring that the silent guardians of deterrence remained precisely that, silent and unseen. The Cold War demanded an impossible feat: to conceal the instruments of global annihilation in plain sight. Each intercontinental ballistic missile, poised to strike, represented a paradox. It was a weapon of unthinkable power, yet it had to remain a ghost in the landscape, invisible to the relentless gaze of Soviet reconnaissance satellites and low-flying spy planes. This wasn't merely about camouflage, it was about an active architectural deception. Engineers faced an unprecedented challenge. They could not erect towering guard posts, nor could they delineate vast barbed wire compounds that screamed military installation. Such overt displays would instantly betray the precise coordinates of a warhead, transforming a hidden asset into a glaring target. The solution, therefore, had to be a masterclass in visual subterfuge. From an aerial perspective, the entire complex had to melt seamlessly into its surroundings, appearing almost indistinguishable from the very wheat fields that rippled around it. Then came the crucible of survival. Each subterranean silo was designed to withstand the unimaginable overpressure of a nearby nuclear detonation. This meant the concrete, the steel, and the intricate suspension systems within had to be engineered not merely to endure, but to absorb a shockwave potent enough to obliterate entire city blocks. Yet, through this cataclysm, a live nuclear missile had to remain perfectly stable, its delicate guidance systems intact, ready to launch within mere seconds. And this monumental task was not a singular endeavor. It had to be replicated 1,000 times over, across vast, remote stretches of unforgiving terrain. These were regions plagued by brutal, isolating winters, traversed by primitive roads, and utterly devoid of the industrial infrastructure typically found at a major construction site. The logistical nightmare alone was staggering, pushing the boundaries of human ingenuity and endurance. The true conceptual breakthrough arrived when engineers ceased viewing each silo as an isolated construction project. Instead, they began to perceive the entire missile field as a single, interconnected machine, a vast, distributed nervous system. The design that emerged from this paradigm shift became one of the most efficient and resilient hardened construction systems ever conceived. Its genius rested upon 3 fundamental engineering pillars: the silo itself, the launch control center, and the intricate buried cable network that bound them all together. Each silo began as a colossal excavation, plunging roughly 80 feet deep and spanning 12 feet across. These cavernous shafts were then meticulously lined with reinforced concrete walls, several feet thick, forming an impenetrable cocoon. But the missile within did not simply rest upon the floor. It was suspended, a 60-foot titan cradled by an elaborate system of massive steel springs and sophisticated shock isolators. This revolutionary design ensured that if a nearby nuclear blast unleashed energy, rather than snapping against a rigid, unyielding structure. Engineers drew upon suspension principles more commonly associated with the precise isolation of heavy machinery, adapting them to a scale and intensity nobody had ever attempted, shielding a delicate rocket from catastrophic forces in a matter of milliseconds. Capping each silo was a launch door, a silent, colossal guardian weighing approximately 90 tons. Forged from steel-reinforced concrete, this immense slab was designed to slide open on heavy-duty rails in a breathtaking 10 seconds, the moment a launch order was confirmed. In the quotidian reality of the landscape, this door presented itself as nothing more than a slightly raised concrete platform, almost imperceptibly different from the surrounding Earth. It was typically enclosed by a simple chain-link fence, adorned with a few unassuming, unmarked antennas. Power lines, almost indistinguishable from those serving a nearby farm, ran directly to the fence line. Cattle grazed placidly within feet of these hidden behemoths, utterly oblivious to the world-ending power slumbering beneath their hooves. From the distant, dispassionate lens of a Soviet satellite photograph, it was virtually indistinguishable from a small, innocuous utility shed. The third, often overlooked but critically vital pillar was the buried cable network. This vast, subterranean web of hardened communication lines was the very nervous system of the entire missile field. It connected each individual silo to its designated launch control center, ensuring instantaneous, secure, and redundant communication. These cables were not merely laid, they were meticulously buried deep beneath the Earth, often encased in protective conduits and armored against electromagnetic pulse attacks, a silent testament to the constant threat of nuclear war. This network allowed for the simultaneous monitoring of hundreds of silos, the rapid transmission of launch codes, and the precise coordination required to unleash an arsenal of unprecedented destructive capability. It was the unseen thread that wove together scattered, isolated points into a single, cohesive, and terrifyingly effective machine. This intricate dance of deception and raw power, of hidden strength and visible normalcy, defined an era. It was a constant, silent testament to the chilling calculus of deterrence, 1,000 invisible swords hanging over the world, each one a monument to human ingenuity and the profound, unsettling cost of an uneasy peace. Beneath the unassuming facade of a rural water pumping station, a deliberate deception unfolded. This was no ordinary agricultural facility. It was a carefully constructed masquerade, one of many designed to camouflage the true purpose of the land. Just a few miles distant, the nerve center of this vast, hidden network hummed with a quiet, constant tension. The launch control facility, the indispensable human component of the system, presented an equally mundane face to the world. From the surface, it appeared to be nothing more than a typical ranch house, often complete with a detached garage and a basketball hoop, meticulously crafted to blend seamlessly into the surrounding tapestry of American farmland. An illusion of quiet, domestic tranquility designed to deflect any unwanted scrutiny. Yet, this pastoral imagery concealed a profound secret. 60 feet below the Earth, accessed by a hardened elevator shaft, lay the launch control capsule. A formidable steel cylinder, engineered for ultimate survival, it was suspended precariously on massive shock absorbers, a bulwark against the unimaginable. Entry was sealed by an 8-ton blast door, a silent, unyielding guardian. Within this subterranean sanctuary, 2 Air Force officers maintained a perpetual 24-hour vigil. their lives a testament to an era defined by the razor's edge of global annihilation. Each of these fortified capsules commanded a silent army. 10 individual missile silos, each a potential harbinger of global change. A typical wing of this strategic command was composed of 15, sometimes 20 such capsules, meticulously interconnected. This intricate web of control ensured a critical redundancy. No single strike, however devastating, could cripple the squadron's ability to unleash its retaliatory might. The sheer scale of this distributed power was a chilling testament to Cold War strategy. Connecting these isolated silos to their control capsules was an innovation often overlooked, yet perhaps the most vital component of the entire system. Hundreds of miles of hardened underground cable buried deep beneath the Earth's crust formed the arteries of this network. This subterranean labyrinth was engineered to withstand blast effects that would instantly obliterate any conventional above-ground wiring or radio communication link. It was a lifeline designed for the unthinkable. Even after nearby nuclear detonations, engineers, anticipating catastrophe, wove in multiple redundant signal paths. Should one connection be severed, control signals would automatically reroute, finding an alternative pathway through another silo within the chain. This was, in essence, one of the earliest and most robust examples of a hardened, distributed communication network in military history. Its foundational principles, born of necessity and the threat of total war, echo directly into the architecture of modern, resilient computer networks that underpin our world today. Beyond sheer blast protection, environmental engineering played an equally critical role. The delicate guidance electronics of each missile demanded a perfectly stable temperature and humidity, ensuring they remained launch-ready for years on end, often without human intervention or maintenance. To achieve this, every silo was equipped with its own independent climate control system, a sophisticated air filtration mechanism designed to guard against the insidious intrusion of radioactive fallout, and robust backup diesel generators capable of powering the entire complex should external electricity supplies be severed. Crews rotated through these claustrophobic underground capsules, enduring shifts that lasted for days, sometimes weeks. They lived, ate, slept, and meticulously monitored the complex systems within a space smaller than a two-car garage, isolated from the world above. While their civilian neighbors worried about the fluctuating prices of wheat or the unpredictable whims of the weather, these officers carried the weight of nations, their fingers hovering over the ultimate deterrent. The pace of this colossal construction effort remains a source of astonishment for engineers even today. Entire missile wings, each comprising as many as 150 silos and their intricate associated control centers, were brought to operational readiness in a staggering 2 to 3 years. This feat was achieved through the relentless application of standardized designs, allowing construction crews to move with the efficiency of an assembly line, replicating these vital hidden structures across the vast expanse of an entire state. The silent sentinels, buried deep beneath the earth, stood as a testament to an era of unprecedented technological ambition and an unwavering, if terrifying, commitment to a future that might never arrive. Across the vast, unforgiving plains of Montana, a monumental task unfolded. Winter after brutal winter, contractors clawed at frozen earth, their machines groaning under sub-zero temperatures. Concrete, heated to resist the biting cold, flowed into subterranean molds, shielded by temporary enclosures. Massive, prefabricated steel components, engineered with a precision usually reserved for spacecraft, were painstakingly trucked along narrow, two-lane farm roads, arteries never designed to bear the weight of such military canvases. This was not merely construction, it was an act of will, carving a silent, hidden power into the very bedrock of America. Yet, the sheer engineering feat, impressive as it was, represented only half the battle. Constructing these colossal subterranean fortresses was one immense challenge. Persuading an entire rural population to coexist with them safely and without widespread alarm for decades to come presented an entirely different, far more delicate problem. By the mid-1960s, a silent armada of roughly 1,000 Minuteman missiles lay entombed beneath the northern Great Plains. Their sprawling network stretched across an area vaster than several European nations combined, an invisible tapestry of immense destructive potential woven into the agricultural heartland. For the families who tilled the soil directly above these hidden sentinels, daily life morphed into something subtly surreal. A quiet vigilance permeated the landscape. Security patrols, their vehicles often the only sign of official presence, would drift past isolated ranch roads at unpredictable hours. Overhead, the rhythmic thrum of Air Force helicopters became a familiar sound, their surprise inspection flights meticulously scanning fence lines and sensor systems for any anomaly. The delicate balance of this coexistence was often revealed in moments of unexpected absurdity. A rancher's errant cow straying too close to a silo's perimeter fence might trip a motion sensor. Within minutes, an armed response team, weapons at the ready, would descend upon the scene, only to find a bewildered bovine rather than an enemy saboteur. The tension, though constant, often resolved into a quiet, almost comical understanding. Local farmers received briefings, couched in general terms, on the nature of what lay beneath their fields. The precise destructive yield, the intricate technical specifications, these remained shrouded in the deepest layers of classification. Yet for many, a profound, almost stoic, practical acceptance took root. The missile, with its ominous cargo, became simply another immutable feature of the landscape, akin to a towering grain silo or a weathered telephone pole. It was an omnipresent reality one worked around, rather than a daily source of gnawing anxiety. Its very permanence seemed to normalize its extraordinary purpose. The lease payments, a steady stream of government funds, offered a reliable income, a crucial lifeline for many families. During lean years, when drought ravaged crops and market prices plummeted, that consistent check often meant the difference between survival and ruin. The engineering itself proved remarkably robust. For 3 relentless decades of Cold War vigilance, this intricate system, designed to conceal nuclear weapons within America's productive farmlands, never once suffered a public safety failure that threatened a civilian community. This was an astonishing achievement, considering these subterranean chambers housed warheads representing a collective destructive capacity almost beyond human comprehension. The hardened, dispersed design fulfilled its singular purpose with chilling effectiveness. It rendered the prospect of a clean, decisive first strike against the American nuclear arsenal a scenario constantly weighed in the war rooms of Moscow, an utterly impossible calculation. The sheer number, the vast geographical spread, and the impenetrable fortifications of these silos ensured that any attack would be incomplete, guaranteeing a devastating counter-response. They were the ultimate deterrent, etched into the very soil. These silent sentinels stood guard until the early 1990s. With the dramatic collapse of the Soviet Union and the signing of historic arms reduction treaties, a new, equally monumental engineering project began, the systematic dismantling of 1,000 nuclear silos. Under the precise terms of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or START, hundreds of Minuteman silos scattered across the Great Plains were deliberately, methodically destroyed. The very ground that had once been torn open to embed the instruments of global deterrence was now carefully, painstakingly returned to a semblance of its former peace. From the brutal act of creation to the meticulous process of deconstruction, the American heartland bore witness to the rise and fall of an era defined by the invisible threat, a testament to humanity's capacity for both unimaginable power and the eventual, hopeful act of laying it down. The earth shuddered as launch doors, once sealed against the unimaginable, were violently blown from their hinges. Concrete structures, built to withstand the impossible, collapsed into dust. Above, unseen, Soviet and later Russian inspectors watched through satellite lenses, confirming each act of disarmament, each step towards a fragile peace. For 3 decades, generations of farmers had tilled the soil, their lives unfolding above a silent, subterranean world of intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now, they stood witness as demolition crews methodically filled the same cavernous holes, erasing the hidden threat their families had unknowingly farmed around for a lifetime. Most of these vast, clandestine sites were quietly returned to agricultural use, the scars of their former purpose absorbed back into the endless wheat fields. Yet, a singular exception was made. Outside the small town of Wall, South Dakota, one launch control facility and its adjacent missile silo were deliberately spared from destruction. This wasn't an oversight, but a conscious act of preservation. Today, this site stands as the Minuteman Missile Historic Site, a chilling testament maintained by the National Park Service. Here, visitors can descend into the very heart of the Cold War, stepping into the cramped, steel-reinforced capsule that once commanded 10 live nuclear missiles, all hidden beneath the placid surface of a working farm. It is a journey into the stark reality of a world poised on the precipice. The profound engineering insights gleaned from the Minuteman missile fields did not vanish with the Cold War's end. The fundamental principle that true resilience stems from dispersal, redundancy, and hardened infrastructure spread across a wide area rather than concentrated in a single vulnerable point continues to resonate. This philosophy now underpins critical modern designs, from the robust architecture of global data centers to the intricate networks of disaster-resistant power grids. And even now, a reduced but still formidable force of Minuteman III missiles remains on hair-trigger alert, silently buried beneath the farmlands of Montana, North Dakota, and Wyoming. Just as they were in 1963, they are a quiet, unsettling reminder of how the most ordinary landscapes can conceal the most extraordinary and terrifying feats of human engineering.